I absolutely love spaceflight. I absolutely love science. And although I would never consider myself a Trekkie, I found myself really, I'm gonna go with disappointed after watching a couple of people interact, trying to decide if they're legend, if they're myth, if they're man, if they're celebrity, if they're taking on a title that just doesn't even belong to them. So without further ado, it is that time again. I am so excited to see you here. Grab your legend pack, crank that speaker to 11. Welcome to Legend. I know I'm a little bit behind. And about 3 weeks ago, Jeff Bezos sent his ship into space with William Shatner, Captain James T. Kirk inside. Now, that's exciting. Like in and of itself, like think about the possibilities, like think about how cool that is that James Kirk actually goes from like I've been doing this on a set for my whole life and I get to do it for reals now. That's a hell of a thing, right? Like that's super cool when you think about that part of it. And you think, wow, so an independent company, it doesn't take a massive government initiative, it didn't take taxpayer money. It took some billionaire with a whim and a team, and they created this, and isn't that exciting? And yes, I know Mr. Musk has done it, and I'm excited about that. But here's the thing, I want to talk to you just a little bit about Mr. Bezos. And I don't want to talk about how he's a billionaire. I don't want to talk about how much taxes he should pay or should not pay. I don't want to talk about where they should be putting their money. I don't want to get it political. I definitely have opinions about that, but that is not the point. I want to, for just a moment, walk you through an event that I got to watch, and I rewatched it just last night because I wanted to make sure my response was still on point. I wanted to make sure I still agreed with my gut reaction. So many of us talk about our guts, right? Like I went with my gut and I chose it by my gut, and your gut is actually your persona, but that's a completely different video. But I want to talk to you about this one single moment because sometimes I think when we talk about branding and we talk about persona and we talk about legend response system, there's so many layers and it gets so complicated. It's easy to get lost. So rather than think about all the different layers and think about all someone's great big expanse of work, I want to walk you through one moment in time, one thing that I got to watch as Jeff Bezos opened the hatch and let the passengers out. And I'm watching William Shatner come out of there and he's having this moment. He's having this moment of, oh my goodness, the magnitude of this event was so, and he's trying to talk to Jeff. And it is at this point that I watched someone who has so much potential to be legend, completely throw it away. Just, and really, I guess, maybe there's too much judgment of that. I guess really what I saw is somebody with holes in their legend response system. So what happened is this, and please know, I would never consider myself a Trekkie. I think that that would insult Trekkies. I'm not that good at it. And I'm more of a next generation girl. Like Picard is my guy. Like I'm so much more a Picard fan. But I grew up with James T. Kirk. I grew up with William Shatner. I I mean him doing Priceline, him being the big giant head on Third Rock from the, like all his little cameos. I That was my captain of my youth. But all that aside, I watch him try to talk. Jeff comes over and says, "Hey, how are you doing?" Great thing, right? You just paid me millions of dollars more. I think it's 3.2 billion. You just paid me a crap ton of money. You had this experience. Check in, right? Great legend response system. We've had this engagement. Let's see how it went for you. Let's see how you feel about it. And as Mr. Shatner is trying to express his emotions, trying to say, this is how it felt. This is, oh my goodness, I will never. In fact, the phrase that he said later was, I hope I never recover from this. Take just a moment and breathe that in. Have you ever had an experience that was so ah, that you thought, oh my gosh, I hope I never recover. I hope I never forget. I hope I never let go of this feeling, not just the memory, but the visceral response to what I just did. There's that. So Jeff comes over and says, how are you? How you doing? Great. Great legend response system. We've had a transaction. you're a client, check in, right? We can all do that. And as Mr. Shatner is trying to express himself, Jeff gets distracted, is a nice word for that. Yes, totally transparency. I was disgusted. As he's bearing his soul, Shatner's bearing his soul, and Jeff turns and is playing with the people who have the champagne and playing with the party and the loud and says, just cuts him off mid sentence, just ignores him and turns and says, "Let me have some of that," and gets the champagne. And you can go see the video. I get it. It's a really exciting thing, and it's a huge accomplishment for him and for his team. But if you ask somebody their opinion and then you cut them off mid-sentence while they are trying to share their experience with you, that is a hole in your legend response system. And it is part of why I would say Jeff is a celebrity. A lot of people know who he is. A lot of people associate his name with what he does. Legends don't do that. So think about this. So again, go back to this moment. Mr. Shatner's trying to express himself. Jeff cuts him off, goes over and gets his picture taken, has a champagne, shakes it up, explodes it all over, and has this big, exciting celebration over here. It has nothing to do with Mr. Shatner. Come over here, right? So I look at that and say, okay, legend response system whole. How do I respond when someone's trying to bare their soul? How do I respond when I say, how are you? And somebody actually wants to tell me, not just, fine, how are you? Not just, wow, that was cool, but oh my gosh, let me explain to you what you just did for me. Let me give you this raving testimonial. Let me share with you my experience with you. Do you cut them off? Do you let them share it all? Do you give them an hour of airtime? Do you give them 30 seconds of airtime? Do you say, you know what, this sounds amazing. How about you and I have a one-on-one after this so I can hear everything you just experienced? I want to hear this. I want the people to hear this. Let's me and you set up a separate time that's all about that. Or do you say, oh, that's really great. We're moving over here. So there's one opportunity to shore up some holes. The other part of that is, let's pretend, I don't know, but let's pretend that Mr. Bezos had every intention of doing that exact thing, of spending some quality time with every single person in that capsule. His team was off doing champagne. He was off exploding in the moment, having this big, loud, boisterous celebration. And there's nothing wrong with that. Loud, boisterous, champagne-filled moment when someone was bearing their soul and there was a conflict right there. His team was not prepared to handle the emotion of that moment. That's another hole in the legend response system. Because no matter how well prepared, how well thought out, you have everything you want to do, if you're not sharing it with your team, it's going to fall. You're going to come off looking like an insensitive turkey, in other words. And these are all opportunities for us to shore up the way we respond to people and making sure that their experience is exactly the way we want. It's not, it's possible that everything that happened is completely on brand for Jeff Bezos. That's unfortunate for me. But if that is on brand for him, if that is persona aligned with him, awesome, way to go him. Your legend response system, the whole purpose is to make sure that when you respond, it is not a reaction. When you respond, it's not just you, it's your team. And it is completely brand aligned and persona forward. So when you have these opportunities to make sure that the people in your space, client, potential client, past client, current client, not a client, doesn't matter, when anyone who comes into your space has a certain level of experience, that's what your legend response system is in place for. Is so that when something hits the fan and is not evenly distributed, you know how to respond. When something goes incredibly, incredibly well, you know exactly how you're going to share it, how you're going to talk about it, how you're going to bring everybody in to be a part of it, or how you're going to exclude everybody and say, this is just about me for just right now. That's what your legend response system does. It's amazing. Because if this was a misstep, that's unfortunate. If what he really meant to do was celebrate the emotional moment, the bearing of one's soul, and complete the experience for a high paying client, oops. And you watch Mr. Shatner's face fall. You watch him just go, oh, I was saying something. I was sharing, where in your world, where in your interactions with your people, can you see the holes? Where is there a crack in their experience that allows them to go, oh? Dang, what a shame. This is your opportunity to go through and fix those holes. Shore everything up. Make sure step by step from start to finish and then some. Your people are experiencing you exactly the way you want them to. Completely brand aligned, completely persona forward. Try it out. Let me know what you say. Go ahead and drop a comment. Drop me a little note and say, hey, Amber, I have no holes. Everything's great. Or, oh my goodness, you're so right. I found this one. I'm shoring that up. I'm fixing that. It's great. I would love to hear what you have to say. So go ahead and drop me a note if you feel so inclined. Until I get to see you and give you a great big hug, stay safe and rock on.